Bonjour, hello, welcome to MaxMountainWorld. Bonjour, hello, today day 7 in Scotland, and I am just about to visit my home village, which has grown significantly, and I suppose people now call it the hometown. So a place called West Linton, which is about 20 miles south of Edinburgh, 30 kilometres south of Edinburgh, and it's changed quite a bit, but I'm going to have a bit of time there today, so here's the video. So we've arrived in West Linton, and just trying to find my old house, which is kind of difficult because back in the early 1970s my father actually planted trees, and now they're big trees, and the house, I remember from a few years ago when I was last here, is actually quite well hidden. So you know, all these trees ahead to the left here, my dad planted. Yeah, so over to the left here, I was right, that's where my dad actually planted trees, and that plot was sold, and that house was built before the family moved away. And this is the original manicured lawns that we had, but it was all trees down in front of me here. And my father actually planted all this stuff here as well, which has now grown to the extent it's hiding the house. And I remember down here, we used to cut this with a tractor lawnmower, and just down at the bottom of the hill there's where I rolled my dad's tractor lawnmower when he was on holiday once. And yeah, so this has changed, but it's very similar, well kept, but changed. See what I can see of the house. So on the same count, these trees that are remaining here, these were planted by my father. So it just shows you how long ago that was. This was always the entrance to our house. This is where we were, Deanfoot Road. This used to be the end of the village, and there used to be a national speed limit sign right next door, but that's gone. And who knows what the name of it is? The original gates, yeah. Original pillars. Very interesting to see in the centre of the village of West Linton, these guys working on the roof. Me and my mates used to have races across the village where we'd do so without touching the ground. And I've been on that roof many times, even to the degree that one time we actually stole a fire extinguisher at the village hall, and we left it up on top of these chimney pots up the back there, back in the days when kids were kids. We had the centre of the village with the clock, as it's known, as in the centre here. And this village absolutely reeks of quaintness, of all sorts. That used to be, on the right here, used to be one of the village pubs, the Ray Martin, but since become a house. Many fond memories of all sorts of activities in that place. Just some tandems, 3 tandems going past. Very popular area down the borders for cyclists, for tandemers, for all sorts. And that's the bottom end of the village. And then up here, back to the clock and the famous chimney pots. I've come past the clock, and there's a little back lane here called Mowbray's Slap. It used to be called something else. It used to be called Croft Lane. And this is quite an old building. I don't know if this is a Masonic symbol or something, but certainly above it we have a date on the building. So it dates back a long time. And I did notice in passing one little novelty, and I've really got to try this and see if it works. This is a door with a fairly unique door handle, but I don't know if it works or not. I doubt it. What's different about it? The door handle's actually a tap, so it's a tap on the door. And no, it doesn't work. I wonder how many people come past and actually try that. Must be quite irritating if the people are inside. At the bottom of the centre of the village we have the original post office and the original telephone box and post box. It even looks, in this day and age, like the telephone still works. And just next door to it, you can see there's a small garden here with a small building next to it called, a little cottage called Braemar. 5 foot high front door. That is actually the kitchen, the section on the right. My good, late and great friend Jeff Irvin used to own this. He bought it as an adult, and when you knocked on the door, he used to poke his head out of that window up in the loft, see who it was to answer the door. But you always have to duck down to get into this. And what a fantastic, characterful place. He bought it for fairly cheap money apparently, and just as the village was becoming a trendy place to live, and sold it on to some American guy for a good profit. Bit of a mixture of the old and the new. The original church from the village. Sitting outside is Lotus Evora. Beautiful sports car, beautiful supercar. Don't know if it's a local or a visitor or whatever. There's quite a lot of nice vehicles dotted around this place. Just across the road from it, the original fire station. With the graveyard next to the church. The church with all its authenticity and a date on it of 1160. We have the war memorial and the kids' play park, which to all intents and purposes is as it was at the foot of the village green, which I'm just coming up to now. They're beautifully maintained, beautiful village. I'm led to believe, I might be wrong, but I'm led to believe that this did actually win some tidy villages, beautiful villages competition thing that goes on in Scotland. I'm sure it won that a couple of times. The top end of the village green, featuring the aforementioned village hall. And this leads to quite an interesting little place. That would be quite an interesting registration for myself. And this little lane that comes out of the centre of the village at the back of the clock runs round and drops down through the river, through a ford. Virtually every car my parents owned has been through here, courtesy of me or my brother. We used to drive all sorts of cars through here. And just I'll go alongside it a little bit. I'm featuring a couple of things just to notice the colour of the water. It's the peat from the ground of further up. And the colour of this, I hope if the camera's picking this up, it's a very deep red colour. And inside here, there's also a drainage pipe that's encased in a sort of flat concrete crossing. And we used to challenge ourselves to ride our bikes through here as kids, if we were too scared to actually run through the ford itself. Quite a rare occasion for us to actually have push bikes and utilise this bridge, which is more or less as it always was. Tennis courts across the side there. Beautifully laid out place. This is more or less as it was, but that tree is a monster compared to how it used to be. Just at this bridge as well, I'm going to cross over it in a second, but there's little dots of relics and things just dotted around the place, and one of the things I've just noticed here is this. Obviously as children, the beauty and just the overwhelming sense of heritage of this place, and just we'd never appreciate it as kids, but just this is beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and way more overgrown than it used to be. Again, we have this red colour in the water. I'll have a look down below here and hopefully, as I say, the camera's going to pick up the colour. Just an incredible deep red colour of the peat integration in the water and the soil and everything. I'm just walking away from the ford. I have the old Presbyterian church. I'm just coming up here to the main road, which is actually the main road south from Edinburgh, together with its speed limits. And West Linton was the first village, first place in Britain to trial run automatic speed control. Just crossing the road, and over the other side of the main road there used to be a hotel here. Originally was called the Pantiles, changed its name to the Linton Roderick. It's a place I used to work as a teenager, in the kitchens and bar and stuff, and it was mowed down to make space for these houses. Now, they had a lot of problems with this because when they built it, they never anticipated the fact that it was a damp zone that very rarely got sun, and had a lot of problems with flies and all sorts of stuff like that. But needless to say, with this place being a trendy village these days, these places are worth an absolute fortune. And the modern day automated speed controls. Just across the other side is the top green. Needless to say, it's quite a busy road. Here goes aforementioned Les-Orres. Nice. So we'll just head over, let's have a little look at the top green. These trees didn't exist in my day, and they're all quite well overgrown now. Wow. We used to play on this banking and stuff as kids and all sorts. Just crossed back over here, and we've got this forest behind where me and the gang, we used to rally our bikes down here. We used to go mountain biking before mountain biking was invented, and we used to ruin our bikes, wreck them. A number of times we had to take them to the garage to have the frames re-welded, and all made authentic now with various signs. But the old catwalk was our racing ground. I'll just quickly continue round. This has all been prepared. This used to be dirt. And the challenge, there was never any of these steps here before at all. And we used to rally them down here, just come down, avoiding trees. Not always avoiding trees. Again, as I say, we used to wreck these bikes. Go up these steps that were never here before. This was the main track. We'd be broadsiding the bikes down here and all sorts of antics. Quite a steep climb, and yeah, avoiding tree roots, all sorts. It's a lovely, beautiful place, as you can hear, quite close to the main road, but it does get away from it and disappear away up into the back end of this forest. In a way, it's a bit of a shame that they've got these pre-prepared paths, and they've straightened it out as well. There used to be a lot of sections of it where it would be winding in and out of trees and S-bends and all sorts, and that was all part of the racing, the push bikes thing. And down the side, in places, there's a fair old drop off. Just catch a bit of the edge, just to put it in a dimension. And fortunately none of us ever became a cropper of that, but came close a few times. But as I say, a bit of the authenticity of the catwalk's been lost with this sort of stuff. Obviously preparing it for people of less ability than us crazy push biker kids. Here's a tree that's been chopped down or whatever. Holds a bit of relevance, but you need to contact me to find out what exactly the relevance of that is. I must keep names and information withheld to protect the guilty. But again, fair old drop off down the side there, and they've straightened a lot of this out. What a shame. What an absolute shame. Now this section, obviously coming the other way, used to be particularly challenging, and we spent sufficient parts of this actually airborne on the bikes, especially coming out of this little bend over the tree roots. That's not really changed much at all, except the trees are a bit bigger. And yeah, this was one of the sections. Great, it's been left untouched. They've not built path onto it. So coming down here, we'd be going phenomenal rate of knots. Quite often we'd end up down here, but it's not really that dramatic a fallout from it. So, hi there, good morning, no problem. So yeah, and we used to, this bend here, if I drop the camera a bit, you'll see it's actually a peak on a little mound. And you could only go so fast, because if you went too fast you'd lose traction because you'd get airborne with it. And this is the track that we used to hammer up, or hammer down, but this section up. And yeah, it's been left authentic, brilliant. Little muddy section stuff. And sometimes I remember this bit, we'd actually shortcut up the back of the path here to drop down beyond these little trees here and rejoin. And in so doing, get a speed up for that bend with the sort of airborne effect if you're going too fast. And this is a tree that has been chopped down a long time ago. Again, I say no more. In building this path, they've actually built this little runoff zone, which is a bit of a shame because we used to refer to this as the splash. On the outside of this bend, a particularly hazardous point, namely because certain parts of it, the drop off the sides near vertical. But again, we didn't come a cropper with this. Goodness only knows how. Just to see the outside of this bend just shortly up here. Yeah, it's over the side of there beyond that tree is a vertical drop, so we would have had a problem if we'd really lost control around here. But then again, that wasn't a consideration for teenagers. This building was always here, but it wasn't always painted white. It was always the authentic stone. And this was a straight where maximum velocity would be achieved despite the tree roots and getting airborne and stuff. And again, I mean, if we'd fallen on these tree roots, gee whiz, we would have been broken. Let's come up to it claims this is the top of the catwalk, but I do know better. And this was actually one sprint point. I'm just going to look over the edge here. The camera's actually almost vertical at that, almost horizontal. So that's where we would have ended up if we had a problem. Common place for dog walkers. And up here, halfway, because it does continue for a good bit, but halfway up here, little track that takes us to a little road called the Lone. Now, I'll just go up here. This is a slightly older passage gate. Bit muddy too. Still, it's the countryside. The width of this is, let's put my hand, you'll see and run across, and there was never always barbed wire on it. It was just wire and stuff. But the rate of knots that we used to come down here, and again, we never crashed in this section. We'd be flying it, but we never crashed in this section. It was just as well, because again, would have been very broken. So that was the catwalk, and that was the first sprint. Now, I refer to this as a road, but it's more of a track, especially it's kind of semi sorted out there, but it was always like this. In subsequent years, we used to rally our cars up here and our parents' cars and everything. This is known as the Lone, always was, always will be, I reckon, be called the Lone, but has a bit more history than that, because it was also the start of what was called the Old Drove Road, where before roads existed, farmers and traders used to bring all their animals up here to take them to Edinburgh, which is about a 20 mile, 30 kilometre endeavour, to take their beasts to market in Edinburgh. The house on the right as I go past, a combination of the old and the new, a Porsche Carrera S with a registration that's worth more than the car, and over to the side an old Audi 80 T-Reg from the days gone by. All these houses with little outhouses and servants' houses. This is the back of the house that I just passed at the end of the flying straight, and what a beautiful building, absolutely incredible, and beautiful outbuildings as well. A few hundred metres further on, just the glory of some of these buildings, just incredible buildings. That's beautiful. What a place to live that must be. And a bit further down there's something else that I'll just top off this particular section of this video. I nearly missed it just walking back up a fraction, but it's all overgrown with trees now. These trees were never this size. But this, there's a house in here, I think I'll be bold, have camera, will intrude. And also in Scotland we pride ourselves with the fact that there is no law of trespass in Scotland, as long as you're not committing an offence, as long as you're not on Queen's property, and as long as you're not on military property. But this house here, in my day, was bought by the family called the Longmuirs, who, Derek and Alan Longmuir, were band members of the band the Bay City Rollers. Now this place used to be securitied up to buggery with all sorts of latest technology from the late 70s security systems, because there was always fans of the Bay City Rollers here trying to get a glimpse of the two guys. And apparently, I don't know, maybe something that could be googled or Wikipedia'd. Apparently Derek, who I like to believe was the older of the two brothers, kind of fell foul of taking advantage of the situation that most of their fan base were young girls, and he fell foul of the law as a result. So just heading back down here, a little disclaimer: if any of that last information wasn't strictly speaking correct, apologies to anyone that's taken offence or whatever. My videos, they're not fact videos, they're just fun videos and videos of the stuff that happens at the side and whatnot. So just heading down here, this is a real trip down memory lane for me, and basically this almost completes my tour of the village. So I'll do one more little item, maybe two, because you never know what I'm going to find down the road, or down the track, or down the Old Drove Road, which this was a part of. Again, a combination of the old and the new, but beautiful old authentic building, and someone's taken it on themselves to put this new style extension on it. They could have actually kept it in the same theme. Just as I reach the bottom here at the main road, the Gordon Arms Hotel, the site of many an activity. Again, I'm saying nothing to protect the guilty. This is the only remaining pub in the village now. There used to be 3 plus the hotel that I mentioned earlier. And this one, I had lunch in there the other day with my big brother, and yeah, it's not changed that much. Everything is all Scottish heritage signposted and stuff, so this is where I've just been. Just coming along to the old side of the other side of the village. This is a house that in my days used to be owned by an old woman who had quite a substantial beard. Now, nothing on the scale of mine, but it's still quite a spectacular thing to see. And I'll cross over just before I get run over, and we're on the school brae now. No prizes for guessing why it's called that, but the school has since gone. Down here used to be the primary school. I say used to be because since we left, the village hasn't just doubled in size, it's tripled in size with new buildings, all built outside the village to the left here. And the only sign, as my brother pointed out, that this actually used to be a school is this barrier here, which used to be the main entrance to the school, not the broken down wall that's ahead, but obviously this was set up to stop kids from running straight out onto the road. This is the old school used to be here, but it is no longer, and it's been replaced by a massive primary school just off to the left, down the bottom here. I dare say in times to come that people are going to wonder why that was called the school brae, because they're going to be building houses, but just in the back there, just straight ahead of me on the outskirts of the village, is where this new massive school is. Before I get back to the car, this is a place, one of the village garages used to be called the Smithy, and it used to be right here. They've built houses on it now, and the housing zone, the housing estate, is called the Smithy. So back to the hire car and back to the centre, just done a full circle, and that was West Linton. The village next door, a few miles away from my home village as a kid, Carlops, has a pub called the Allan Ramsay. Now this pub here was the owner invented something. This was the first pub in Britain to have a touchscreen till, and needless to say, the guy moved on and no longer, after a very short time, no longer had the need to run a pub. So having left West Linton and now heading back into Edinburgh, I've just stopped at the side of the road about 12 miles in the road, just to put on my own music through the car's system, because basically all the radio that I can find out here in the sticks, as it were, is shite. So in so doing, I've just remembered a couple of things, so I'll just finalise this video with all that stuff. Now, again, a very fast stretch of road, which we used to hammer in the era before speed cameras and stuff. So just over to the left of me is this mountain that Graham and I climbed, 305 metres above where I'm sitting just now in the car. And also over to the right, a couple of miles down, is Roslin Chapel, which was a major point, a major area of subject in the Dan Brown book and film The Da Vinci Code. And also a little bit further on is only a couple of miles again, is the residence, or was the residence, of Dolly the sheep, which was the first cloned animal in the world, courtesy of Edinburgh University. And I'm now just on my way to hook up with a very good friend of mine at the Falkirk Wheel, so I'm going to do a video on that one as well.